Christ. Amen. I wanted to start off by talking a little bit about the disciples in Mark's gospel. Now, in Luke, in Matthew, and in Mark, the disciples have a different character. In Luke's gospel, they're a little overzealous. They're a little overconfident in Jesus' abilities. They recognize him as the Son of God, but that also leads them to say things like, Jesus, why don't you strike them down now? Missing the point of Christ's love. They're so enveloped in this power that when someone mocks Jesus, they're just sitting there going, Christ, why don't you just get rid of them for us? Wouldn't that be great? Well, Matthew's a little different. Matthew, Jesus accuses the disciples on more than one occasion, calls them ye of little faith. You see, they believe in Jesus, but they keep not having the full faith in Christ, the full trust in Christ. And so he calls them ye of little faith. The silver lining in the midst of it all is little faith. He doesn't say ye of no faith. Ye of little faith. Why don't you trust in me more? Well, Mark's gospel. The disciples in Mark's gospel are my personal favorite. And that's because they are so dumb. I never thought I'd get dumb and do a sermon, and I did, so there we go. It only took me 6 months. They are just fools. They never fully understand Jesus. They have Jesus there performing miracles. They have Jesus there teaching in the synagogues on more than one occasion. There's even a parable that they don't understand, and Jesus pulls them aside and describes it to them and what it means. And yet, over and over again, they seem to miss the point. My favorite of this instance is in Mark's gospel when he tells the story of the feeding of the thousands, of the multitude. Jesus takes very limited bread, very limited fish, and feeds a whole group, and there's so much left over that they have 12 baskets left. Well, immediately following this, the disciples get into a boat with Jesus. For some reason, they already lost the 12 baskets, so they only have one loaf of bread. And they're sitting here moping, going, God, we're so hungry. How are we going to have this loaf of bread feed us all? I mean, this is going to be hard. And Jesus is staring at them, going, what are you talking about? I just fed thousands of people, and we have a loaf of bread, and you think you're not going to be fed? Don't you understand? Do you not yet understand, I believe is the exact verse. I love these disciples because I feel like Mark's disciples a lot of the time. Stumbling through, maybe not fully getting the message, and just trying to figure out what the heck Jesus is talking about. In my own life, in the Bible, not always fully understanding. But the cool thing about today's gospel text is who does know Jesus? Who does acknowledge Jesus in this text? A man with an unclean spirit sees Jesus and in an instant knows who he is. The demons, the evil in this world, the evil in Christ's time saw Jesus and knew who he was. I know who you are, Jesus of Nazareth. You are the Holy One of God. I just always find it interesting. The people close to Jesus don't seem to always be able to get what Christ means for them, for the world, yet the evil points to Christ and knows that he has the power to conquer, and they only have the ability to obey him. So when he says leave, they leave. The second group of people that notice Jesus Christ and his authority, not the disciples, is the outsiders. Not the 12 that are surrounding him, but the people he was teaching in the synagogue. They were astounded at his teaching and the authority, and they witnessed him take a demon out of a person's body just by mere words. And they witness to that. They witness to Christ's power. So we have the evil in this world that has to acknowledge and obey Christ. We have outsiders. Maybe not the lifelong church members in this world. Maybe the ones who are recently new to the church. Maybe those that may not even believe in God, but they've seen God at work. They just don't know how to describe it. It's an interesting thing to think about when we listen to God in this world, when we look for God active in this world. And I know I've been beating up Mark's disciples, but one of the interesting things, and it's why they may be bumbling fools, but at their core is wisdom. It's because the previous reading to this, Jesus says, "Come and follow me." They drop their nets and they follow. They never fully understand Christ. They never fully seem to understand. Peter gets close when he says, "Christ, you are the Messiah." The disciples, hopefully, even though it's not there, when Christ, the resurrected Christ, sees them, they finally understand and it all comes together. But even though throughout his whole ministry they never fully understand who Christ is, what are they doing? They're still following. They're still following Christ. And that's why when we hear in the last line of the psalm, the fear of the Lord... All right. I was doing so well. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I know a lot of people might not fancy themselves as book smart or street smart, but this tells us right here, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So although we have these bumbling fools, Christ shows them the true wisdom. Christ shows them, brings them to his eventual death, shows them his resurrected body, and so they get to see Christ's power in this world. They finally get to take that step back and see the bigger picture, see what Christ's doing for them. And that's why this is one of my favorite Bible passages. And it's also why Mark is one of my favorite, probably my favorite gospel. Because we can be bumbling fools. And trust me, I feel like every one of us has that potential to be a bumbling fool, myself included. But we just are called to keep following, because Christ will continually be with us at all times, constantly helping us, forgiving us, and inspiring us, and empowering us. This is all given to us, not because of anything that we do, but because Christ is the one who died for us. Amen.